You scroll through the internet on a specific telecom network, buy groceries from one dominant online retailer, and order food from a single delivery app. You make hundreds of these small decisions every week. But zoom out, and those choices collapse into just 2 or 3 massive corporate ecosystems. That lack of options is a highly calculated system. The economic loop you operate inside today was established exactly 150 years ago, in 1870. The architect was a man named John D. Rockefeller. He built a machine so efficient at capturing wealth that if you combine the net worth of today's richest tech founders, they would still look poor standing next to him. To navigate this landscape, we have to look at the mechanics of the machine. It is a system designed to consolidate resources and minimize competition through a precise set of rules. When the government finally forced his company to break apart in 1911, he didn't lose. The breakup actually multiplied his power, proving that the system's architecture was more resilient than the laws meant to control it. This worldview began with a childhood lesson. Rockefeller's father was a con man who frequently vanished, only to return with rolls of cash. One day, he coaxed young John to jump into his arms, then stepped back, letting the boy fall. His father told him to never trust anyone. From that moment, Rockefeller became obsessed with maintaining mathematical control over his entire environment. In 1859, oil was discovered in Pennsylvania. Thousands of people rushed in, blindly drilling holes in the ground. It was pure gambling, boom and bust. Rockefeller, an accountant at the time, ignored the drilling. He looked at the supply chain and found the one unavoidable bottleneck: refining the crude oil. Before the electrical grid, homes went dark when the sun set. The only affordable solution was a lit glass lamp burning kerosene. By owning the refineries, Rockefeller positioned himself as the sole gatekeeper of light. This diagram shows his first major weapon: vertical integration. Usually, a business pays external suppliers for materials. Rockefeller noticed he was paying $2.50 for wooden oil barrels. So he bought his own forests, cut his own timber, and built his own barrels. He bought his own transport wagons and warehouses. He absorbed every step into his own pipeline, driving his internal cost per barrel down to just 96 cents. We see this exact strategy today. In India, Mukesh Ambani's Reliance empire owns the undersea cables, the cell towers, and the content on the screen. When you own the entire ecosystem, your operating costs drop so low that external competitors physically cannot afford to match your retail price. Vertical integration sets the stage. Once your costs are the lowest in the market, you can execute the next, far more aggressive phase: total market elimination. In 1872, Rockefeller approached his rivals in Cleveland with an ultimatum: sell to me or be ruined. If they refused, he began selling his oil at a massive loss in their specific territories. His deep pockets and low internal costs meant he could bleed cash for months. His rivals couldn't. Within 3 months, he absorbed 22 of the 26 refineries in the city. This strategy is called predatory pricing. Think back to 2016 in India. Jio launched with free data and free calls. Existing telecom companies couldn't survive $0 revenue. Rivals like Docomo and Aircel vanished entirely, and others were forced to merge just to stay alive. Once the competitors are starved out, the monopoly controls the entire market. They slowly raise prices, extracting vast profits from a consumer base that now has nowhere else to go. By the 1880s, Rockefeller controlled 90% of American oil. But state laws prevented a company in one state from owning property in another, putting his massive corporate empire at risk. To bypass the government, his lawyers invented a legal mechanism called a trust. Instead of Standard Oil directly buying competitors, shareholders surrendered their stock to a central board. 9 men on this board quietly managed dozens of separate, seemingly independent companies across the country. This setup allows a central entity to direct an entire industry while claiming it doesn't technically own anything. It is the direct ancestor of today's holding companies, where Meta controls WhatsApp and Instagram, or Alphabet dictates the moves of Google and YouTube. The trust was the invention of the corporate ghost. It allowed total economic dominance to hide behind a maze of paperwork, keeping the true power invisible to regulators. The public eventually realized they were trapped. But Rockefeller was the majority shareholder in the original trust, which meant he received majority shares in all 34 new companies. As these newly divided companies competed on the open market, investors drove their values up. Rockefeller's personal net worth tripled overnight. He became the world's first billionaire. Those 34 pieces never really died. Over the decades, they quietly bought each other back, eventually re-merging into the energy titans we buy fuel from today, like Exxon and Mobil. In his later years, Rockefeller faced immense public hatred. Under the advice of public relations experts, he began donating vast sums to medical research and universities through the Rockefeller Foundation. This established a standard procedure for modern billionaires. Philanthropy provides a tax shield, but more importantly, it buys influence. When you fund the universities and the medical research, you dictate the curriculum and the direction of science without ever running for public office. The people who design these economic matrices are largely immune to legal defeat. When the law breaks their structures, they simply absorb the shock, change their shape, and wait for the market to consolidate again. Rockefeller once stated he didn't want a nation of thinkers, he wanted a nation of workers. The modern tech ecosystems are built on that exact premise, designed to keep you comfortably consuming rather than questioning the structure. So how do you operate inside a system you can't escape? First, invest in it. If monopolistic companies are extracting wealth from every transaction, holding their stock turns you from a passive victim into a partner. You capture a fraction of the value they harvest. Second, recognize the trap. When a search engine or a data plan costs you $0 up front, you have to understand the math. Your behavioral data and your attention are the actual assets being extracted and sold. Finally, maintain strict financial discipline. Despite his vast wealth, Rockefeller obsessively tracked every single penny in an accounting ledger. He understood that personal financial clarity is your primary defense against a market engineered to drain you. John D. Rockefeller wrote the rules of modern commerce. We inhabit the world he designed. But recognizing the walls of that system is the first necessary step toward finding your way out.